All right, all right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, because I believe that some of you are going to watch the replay of this. Welcome back to Give Black, Give Back Conversations. This is week 4 of Black Philanthropy Month, International Black Philanthropy Month. Let me just make sure I say that. We host this conversation to explore the many facets of Black philanthropy and how philanthropy impacts the Black community every other month. And then during Black Philanthropy Month, we are here every single week. I am your co-host, Kia Jarman, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-conspirator in philanthropy, Lisa Swift-Young. Let me tell you a little bit about the initiative that Lisa and I founded and serve as philanthropy advisors for. It is called Give Black, Give Back. Also, yes, the same name as our wonderful podcast and videocast. The Black Philanthropy Initiative is in collaboration with the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. We have a 3-pronged mission. We serve as a resource and amplifier of the Black-led funds housed at the Community Foundation. I think we're almost close to 100. Let's keep rising that number. We also support the efforts of nonprofits that are run by and serve the Black community, and we provide access and education to the community on how to build or sustain your philanthropic practice. And again, this is week 4 of Black Philanthropy Month. And let me tell you a little history. In 2011, Dr. Jackie Copeland and her co-architects created this global initiative to celebrate and honor the hundreds of years of legacy of Black people across the diaspora giving. So for the past 4 years, we've been celebrating here in Nashville, and we're glad that you are still with us. We are here to help you reclaim the word philanthropy. I invite you to go to our website, blackgivingback.com. Let me pass it over to Lisa to get us started.
So welcome again to Black Giving Back Conversations. As Kia mentioned before, Black Philanthropy Month is something that is a global initiative. We are blessed to be able to do this on the Community Foundation's page specifically. Today's conversation is around the foundation, we believe, of Black philanthropy is with Black women. And we have some really great guests on today to have a conversation. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'm going to give a little bit about them, and we're also going to give you a way to reach out to them as well and follow some of these ladies and support their initiatives. Erika, I'm going to get started with you. Do you mind introducing yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Kia, and the entire team. It's so great to be here and to share. I am Erika Burnett. I wear many, many hats. I serve as the co-conspirator for the Women of Color Collaborative. This is an initiative that was launched in, I think, 2016, based out of Nashville, but serving really the entire state and region with a focus on creating safe, affirming spaces for women of color to work, play, and build together. And over time, that vision has evolved. And I think that's timely, even for this conversation, right? That the needs of communities change and evolve, the work, the engine behind the work changes and evolves, and being willing to pivot as an active form of resistance to white supremacy in this space, right? How do we make sure that we are still centering and focusing on the needs of the communities that we care about? Over time, that work has evolved. We have become much more intentional while embracing the women of color sort of umbrella. My co-conspirator and I are Black women, and we recognize that we can only learn and teach and engage from that lens. And so our work has shifted. We were very, very bold in the beginning about language around what does allyship look like to us, not necessarily how someone else has defined it, not maybe the politically or socially acceptable response at the time, but what feels good to us. And that work has been so fulfilling and affirming. And we have seen so much community built over really just framing how do we work, play, and build together, y'all, in ways that affirms us. My other job, my daytime gig, I serve as the executive director for the Women's Fund of Greater Chattanooga. So my family and I split our time between Nashville and Chattanooga, with my professional focus here really being on a policy, systemic level change that has positive impacts for women and girls. And so that conversation around where and how philanthropy informs and is informed by both of these bodies of work present a really, really interesting sort of juxtaposition for me. And so this is a fun space to be in, and I'm so thankful to be here.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to get more into how people can get involved in the women's funds in their areas as well. So thank you so much for being the leader in Chattanooga. So those of you in Chattanooga who don't know about this fund, you should probably reach out to her and get involved. Tyeshia?
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, Erika, like you, I wear so many hats. I think a lot of us do, right? But I first would say, like my shirt says, I'm a mother first. I'm a happy and proud mother of five. I am the daughter of William Chester Smith. My dad is no longer here, and so I bring him into every space that I occupy. And so I just want to lift that up. I currently serve as the Director of Engagement for Philanthropy Together, which is a global initiative that was the inception came from all of the Giving Circle networks that came together basically to create an organization that supports the Giving Circle movement. And so we're on this bold, ambitious mission to democratize and diversify philanthropy, y'all, because we got to open up the space for all the people that have traditionally been excluded. And so I am a face, I am a philanthropist. We are all philanthropists here. And so to Kia's point, we're owning that narrative. Black women, people of color, our youth. And so we're just democratizing. We're on that mission through the power of Giving Circles. And so that I am super duper passionate about that. I actually serve as the chair-elect for Heritage Giving Fund, which is my giving circle that's based here in my city of Dallas, Texas. And Heritage was formed in 2017 during Black Philanthropy Month. So all of it full circle here. And so we are a group of Black women that pull our resources together to invest in Black women leadership. That is what that means is we invest in organizations that are led by Black women. And so to date, we've raised over $100,000 and to flow those into much needed grassroots organizations here across North Texas. And so, yeah, those are a couple of hats of mine. And I also just want to lift up that I'm just a community builder, y'all. I'm just a everyday, regular folk that's just passionate about service and people and us and want to see everyone thrive. And so at my core, I am an activist philanthropist, just advocating on all of our behalf, just for to live full lives where we all can just survive and thrive and do good and show up for our community in very meaningful ways. And so thank you so much, Kia and Lisa and all of the panelists for the opportunity to be in community with y'all. And also for all of the viewers that's here with us today, that's going to have a good conversation together. So
thank you so much. You brought up so many things that we're going to get into a little bit later. Kia and I talk about the 5 T's specifically. People know about talent, treasures, and time, right? People know about that, but your truth and your testimony are also part of it. So you sort of jumped into that. So we're going to kind of double back in a little bit. But before that, we're going to get Johari to sort of introduce herself as well.
Hi, ladies. Hello to everyone. And as Tyeshia and Erika have already shared, I am so honored to be a part of this great platform. So thank you, Lisa and Kia, for including me. My name is Johari Matthews. I am a native Nashvilleian, and I currently serve as Director of Programs for the Tennessee Titans. I joined this organization. It's a newly created role about 3 months ago in May. And this role was created by our CEO and president to really focus on the breadth and depth of the Titans and the community impact that we are having. And so this role serves as the primary liaison for our Titans Foundation, our community partnerships, also any stakeholder and community development projects that may be on the horizon. So a lot of my work prior to joining the Tennessee Titans is rooted in philanthropy, community building. Prior to joining the Titans, I served as the executive director for the Northwest Family YMCA in the historic Bordeaux and North Nashville area. And I have, like many of you have already shared, I'm involved in a lot of things, wear a lot of different hats. So I serve on a couple of different boards and committees, one of them being Corner to Corner, which is a local nonprofit here in Nashville, as the board chair, but also the Women's Fund, which is a part of the Community Foundation and is near and dear to my heart. And I'm a mother. I have 2 children, and so I spent a lot of time navigating them, but most importantly, I love Nashville. I've been here all my life, and I love being able to support the communities and the work and the nonprofits that are contributing and filling in the gaps here in Nashville. So thank you, Kia and Lisa, for having me.
You ladies are amazing. And this is going to be a really great conversation. And as we always kind of get started in particular, so our philanthropy stories and how we ended up becoming philanthropists. I mean, I think we all are very familiar with some of the ways that people think, but I think always African Americans have a different way of approaching it. So I'm going to ask each of you to sort of share your philanthropy story of how you sort of started to embrace that sort of title as a philanthropist and how that evolved for you. I'm going to go backwards. So Johari, I'm going to come right back to you, and then I'm going to go back the other way. So I know you just finished talking, but I feel like the energy is already there. So
yeah, no, you're good. I'm already warmed up, so I'll keep it going. I think, Lisa, you mentioned earlier about the 5 T's, and I have followed you and Kia and your work, and I've seen you guys present on this a million times, and I love it because there's so much truth in it. And so for me, I think, my philanthropy story originated just through my lived experiences first. I mentioned before that I'm a native Nashvilleian. I grew up in a single parent home. My parents divorced early on, and my mom took on a good chunk of raising my brother and I. And so I saw firsthand, and, looking back, I was able to see just the efforts and the resources that were provided to my mom to be able to provide the space and the opportunities for my brother and I. But in addition to that, my dad, who lives in Nashville also, he's a huge community advocate. He is involved in so many different things. I honestly think that a lot of that also came from him and watching him. So my dad was really big on encouraging us to volunteer, encouraging us to get out and serve our community, to do, whether it's cleaning up the community, whether it's, going down and volunteering for an event, but also being aware and that exposure. And so I wasn't introduced to necessarily giving of your treasure at an early age. That came later on in life, but the other 4 T's of your time, your talent, your truth, and your testimony, those were all things that were just incorporated in my childhood growing up. My mom, like I said, she was a single parent, so she depended very heavily on the YMCA, which was my first introduction to nonprofit work. And that's where I started in college, working with the YMCA, which then opened up other doors to introduce me to giving of your treasure and what that looks like and what that could mean. So for me, those lived experiences really helped to shape my philanthropy story.
awesome. Thank you so much for sort of sharing that and the way that you sort of, as a child, saw it. It was what benefited by it, and then were able to sort of see that opportunity and how it helped you to morph into something that you now literally spend your life's work is around doing that exact thing. So thank you for giving back in that way. We always talk about give black, give back. And so you are definitely exemplifying exactly that. So Tyeshia, you want to share your story?
Yeah, Johari took my story, so you can pass up. Now, I definitely relate with that so much, the lived experiences piece, because that really is how it started. Like so many people, so many Black folk, it started in the church, y'all, believe it or not. Like I remember my mom, we were in the church 3-4 days out of the week type deal. And it's just through the church, I remember just giving dollars, giving my money. Now, at a young age, I didn't think about, and even my mom, she didn't refer to herself as a philanthropist. That word wasn't centered in our home. But in reflecting back as grown Tyeshia, like, I'm like, yeah, we were giving out of the abundance of nothing. Because I grew up in an impoverished area in Dallas and in South Dallas. And so it definitely, my roots, my origins started there with connections with my grandmother and giving. And very similar to Johari, that journey, just, through the 5 T's, I remembered. So that's treasure. But then as I got older, y'all, community has always been my safe place. I've always been a person that liked to be around people. And so that looked like me just showing, whether I was helping a neighbor with their groceries, or going to go talk to my older neighbors and listening to stories with them, or reading books to some of the young kids that was in the neighborhood. I've always literally been giving my time in community in just ways that was just genuine to me, the things that I actually just enjoyed and liked to do. And that passion for just being around people, being in community, loving on my hood, loving on folks, really carried me through and ushered me into school. And that's really where I feel like it was amplified. It was through education. Once I got to college, y'all, shout out to all the first generation college graduates out here. I'm part of that village. And so, but once I got to college, and that was the first time I had been around diverse groups and all these organizations. And so I just plugged in, it really just heightened my awareness, my advocacy, about the issues, right? Like just getting, that's where I feel like I found myself. I really found my passion and really just my path, my calling, as I say, was really in college. And that's really when y'all started to own it. I started to really dig deep into public service, and through that, just, get involved with organizations. And then after I graduated from college, I got involved with my giving circle pretty much. And that just to be a part of Heritage, just really taught me a whole different way of how I show up. And that is in a more strategic and more intentional way. And that's the difference of just like charity versus philanthropy. It's being intentional and very strategic, real spot on about how I devote my time, my talent, my treasure, my testimony, and my ties. And so, I feel that so much. Lived experiences all the way is my philanthropy origin story, and still is right now. So thanks for letting me share, Lisa.
So Kia, I see you shaking your head, and I know it's a lot of stuff she said in there.
Already know.
We was like already. So I was like, I was gonna introduce Erika. Erika, if you just, but Kia's about to explode. So
You already, because I'm looking for paper. I told you all I'm about to do. I'm looking for paper because I got my pen. I sit here and take feverish notes, and I always say this is a master class. I love our guests when they come in. So thank you for sharing that, Erika. Go ahead and jump in, and then I have some things.
So
we live in the same lives. That's what that is.
It's assimilation, y'all. Anyway, that's a whole. If we take both of those intros and combine them together, I've literally been sitting here going, "Well, I don't want to repeat that. I don't want to repeat that." So it has been a lived experience, right? Thank you for starting, Johari. Like it has been a lived experience. I'm going to add from what has maybe been a gap for me. I grew up and we never operated from a deficit mindset. And that was so important, right? I grew up in inner city Detroit. If you've ever sat in a session with me, 95% of the times I talk about my identity circle as a way of inviting people into a space to understand themselves. And one of the names that you'll see on one of my outer circles is Focus Hope. If you grew up in Michigan, Focus Hope was the government assistance program, right? I did not know that we were on government assistance. I thought me and my grandfather took that trip to that warehouse every week with these vouchers, and I got to choose which picture to stand under for what type of beans or what type of, right? My experience was we have abundance around us. There's food. We are healthy. My grandmother had a garden in the back, right? If there was a need and there was a way to meet that need, community showed up. And so, to the points that have been made earlier, philanthropy for me had been embedded in how we existed, the way we showed up and allowed all of our T's to be beneficial to our community and to serve for the good of those around us. And because of that, I heard college and I was like, yep, let me take it there. I'm gonna go from there and use that as a launching point. I remember the first time being asked for like dues as a part of a club, right? Like, I think that would have been the first time, because I just handed stuff to my mama in high school. But I think that was the first time that there was an exchange, right? And I remember there were rumbles of folks having issues with that. And I remember having to like talk myself through, like, am I okay with paying these dues, right? If I'm only getting $50 on this card every month, am I okay with throwing 20 here? And what I was reminded of is that every step of the way, there had been an exchange for the greater good. When that community center, which wasn't a YMCA in my community, but when that neighborhood community center, the program lost funding, and that next year we didn't have anywhere to go, we collected money, right? Like, we figured our community showed up and figured out ways that was going to be helpful and beneficial immediately for us. And because of that, there was not a distrust around this exchange of funds. There was a belief that all of this is for the greater good, and it is our responsibility to make sure it happens. One of the most tangible memories I have is seeing a thank you envelope, right, come from a local women's clinic. Me and my mother didn't have very transparent conversations when I was younger. But I do remember asking her, did you give money to them? And she said, yes. And I remember asking very specifically, do they provide abortions? This is before it, right? I'm just curious. Do they provide abortions? And she said, they meet women exactly where they are, and they have helped a lot of women that we know. My mother has never talked about giving, other than now she gives to causes that I tell her she needs to, right? But as a young child, what that demonstrated for me is there's a way that we show up in relation to what is important to us. And even when we don't know where the dollars are going to come from, we know that it takes money to make things happen. And that has been a really important framing for me, and it's a part of my philanthropic origin story, in addition to the combination of the other stories that were shared earlier.
Yeah, this is I've said this now twice this week. This is a dream realized, right? This conversation, this is why I've been so excited about having it, because this feels like the ancestors are sitting right here with us. That's what this always feels like, because what I often share is, though we are really special people, we're not unique. And here's what I mean. The stories that you just heard are 3 representations of thousands of millions of people who have this origin story. But what the news would tell you, what the newspaper would tell you, what movies would tell you, is that this narrative doesn't exist, that we don't give, or that we haven't given. And as we often try to bring into the conversation, 2/3 of Black households give $11 billion a year. Just 2/3. The other third is given their other T's. And then there's a lot of unaccounted for, right? Because there are folks who are not necessarily turning in the tax slip, or they're not necessarily keeping up with the records. They're just doing. And so that is the representation. I remember, Tyeshia, we had a panel a few years ago, and Dr. Tyrone McKinley Freeman said something that I carry into every conversation, which is that philanthropy is one of the things that could not be stolen from us on the transatlantic slave passage. Our ability to give and gift and be communal. And each one of these women are in my community, right? I know them, I know their work, I know the people around them and their work. So we are community people. And so I just wanted to just earmark the conversation that is coming forward that says, we do this, and we do this in lots of numbers. And that's why this conversation with Black women was so important. The other piece I want to bring into this, because several of you all mentioned church in some capacity, and I always want to do my plug for churches. I want churches to do a better job of sharing that tithes is philanthropy. And if we use the language, right, because what you're supposed to be doing with those tithes and offerings is doing something in the community, right? The building fund ain't been built all this years. Like we built the building. Okay, now we got to build the outside of the building. Now we got to build into the community, right? We have been using our same narratives for a long time. It's okay to say it's philanthropy. It's okay to put it on the envelope. That's really the mission I'm on, is if you just put it on the envelope so people could check, I'm a philanthropist. When you own that language, it strengthens our ability to come together like this when we all are using that language of philanthropist, because no longer can people weaponize it against us and say, well, your name's not on the side of a building. That's okay. I'm still in philanthropy. So I just was bringing full circle some of the things that I heard. I want to ask this question. Johari jumped into this, and Erika jumped into this as well. Tyeshia, you may want to bring this up as well. You talked about the women in your life, particularly your moms. Are there other women that you have seen who have led, who have been in leadership? And it could also be quiet leadership, because sometimes we think about leadership as like the executive director or the CEO. Those are great leaders as well. But think about a person, and you can share their name or not, but we want to bring ancestral and elder into the room. Share those people who have been a part of your philanthropy story, or a part of your story in general. They've given you the time, they've given you of their talent, they've given you their testimony. And so Tyeshia, I'll let you start, and then Johari and Erika, feel free to pick up on that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for rooting us in this piece. I definitely, there's so many women. I just love women. We're just trailblazers, and I'm grateful for people like women like my mom and my grandma, who really put the love for just love. Love was at the core. We felt it. My sisters, my cousins, my mom was one of those ones, that house where, the house on the street where everybody come over there. She was always cooking, always just people staying over on the weekends, staying for X amount of weeks or whatnot. But that love, that community love, the community, Kia, what you're talking about, that really was rooted and instilled in me from my mom and my granny. They were no questions asked, baby, don't hold no grudges, just love. Love can push us through. And that has really helped me, y'all, healed me, carried me forward in my philanthropy journey, as well as how I show up for community. And so in addition to my granny and my mom, I want to lift up my heritage sister, Akila Wallace. Like I really bring that, she's my sister right now. She's not an ancestor, but she is somebody who I admire a lot of it. Akila Wallace is the founder of Heritage Giving Fund. And Dallas, like so many cities, y'all, is separated. It's heavily segregated. You have the South, which is mostly Black and brown folks. And then up north, it's mostly, white, wealthy populations. And so what we realize is that, the organization South were heavily underfunded for a long time, a very, very long time. And nothing was being done about it until advocacy. Akila, like God bless her and the vision that he gave her to really start a giving circle, start the movement. She brought this movement of Black philanthropy to North Texas that really just shook up the scene in a way that made everybody take notice of the inequities that was here. But then also, what we're about to do about it. Y'all, let's pull our resources. You give 25, you give this, you give 50. What women can, who's up for the call to action to come pull some resources together to actually not just talk about it and complain about these inequities that we see, especially for Black women-led organizations here in North Texas. What are we going to do about it? And so I'm grateful for her vision and her leadership, because through that, we, our sisters, we created this village and this domino effect that is being felt. And we see it. We literally see our grantee partners and their visibility. And now they're all United Way recipients and people taking notice, because again, we're not just giving them our dollars, we're giving them our voice. We're telling people follow them. We're really showing up in a very big splashy way that brings awareness and a certain level of love back to them, because they need to be loved on. They need to be poured into so that they can continue on doing the good work that they're doing. And so I lift up those women, my mother, my granny, and Miss Akila, shout out to her if she's watching, but just for being a shaker and doing something different and causing a whole ripple effect and bringing the movement to my community where it matters the most to me.
Ooh, I love that. We talked about love last week too, or 2 weeks ago, relative to financial awareness and love. We're gonna do a whole segment on that. We have to.
Let's do it, Kia. We need it, y'all. We need more of it. We need more of it.
Love is really what's being stolen from us. That's
Amen.
what's been stolen. So Johari or Erika.
Yeah, I echo Tyeshia, and I'll first start with my grandmother, Irene James, who she was that person on the block too in Philadelphia, where she was taking care of everyone. She was feeding the neighborhood, but she was also advocating for her neighborhood. If the stop sign had been knocked down, my grandmother was the first one down there. Like, no, we need the stop sign. So I think that for me was, it was a great opportunity to see her lead in that way, and to see just how, your passion can turn into philanthropy. A couple of other women, I'm big on the women in my life because I know so many incredible and phenomenal women who are doing so many different things in the spaces that they are in. But two women in particular, Miss Rita Mack, and she'll be so upset that I called her an elder, but
I love Rita Mack.
Rita McDonald, and then also Brittany Irby. They were the two first women that I had met who introduced me into using philanthropy and using it as a tool to serve on boards and committees and to get involved with nonprofits. Rita Mack is big on like giving up your time. And she is always like, how are you serving? How are you showing up? And when you get on these boards, she's like, don't be quiet, use your voice, be an advocate. She's like, they're gonna ask you to give of your money. She's like, but you need to show up in other ways beyond that. And so I really value that from Rita Mack, because between Brittany Irby and Rita Mack, they're always asking, how am I serving my community? And that was huge for me. The third woman that I want to just highlight and shine a light on is Judy Winfield Ferry, who is a good friend of mine, but she also was my former supervisor at the YMCA. But she was the first woman who taught me and really showed me how to give with my treasure, with my money. She was the first person that I personally had seen give or make a financial contribution. And at the time I was like, wow, not to put her business out there, but I was like, wow, you wrote $1,000 check. And she was like, yeah, she's like, I am giving that like over time. Like I have divided that up over the months. And she's like, you can give whatever you want to give, whether it's $20, $5 or higher. She's like, but there are ways to do it. And so Kia, you had talked about, tithing and making that a philanthropic effort for our churches. I think it's also very important. And I used to use this language a lot in my YMCA days, of really getting people to understand that any monetary amount is philanthropy. So, if you give $10, if you gave $1, that is a philanthropic contribution, and you are a philanthropist. That is your treasure. That is coming from your pocket. And Judy Winfield Ferry was the first person to really bring that awareness and kind of bring that full circle for me. So I am extremely appreciative of those women, but also just, seeing women like you all, Kia, Lisa, Tyeshia, and Erika, seeing the work and being able to watch it from the front row is also empowering and uplifting. And it's also nice when you hear about women who are amplifying causes, amplifying needs, and gaps that need to be filled. So those are the women who influence me daily.
That's good. There's no wrong amount for intentional giving.
Right.
No
Correct.
wrong amount for that. Erika, I know you've got something you might want to contribute. Uh-oh, you're on mute. It wouldn't be a call.
I knew it was going to be me, y'all. So I echo the same sentiments. I think of Elizabeth Harrison, my grandmother, who I never got to meet in the flesh, but in the spirit, know her very deeply. And every story that I hear about my grandmother, she was giving. She was giving of herself. She was giving of her talents, right? She was making sure her treasure and my grandfather's treasure got put exactly where it needed to go. And so I appreciate and respect and hold on to those stories. Also growing up with my paternal great grandmother, my grandmother, and seeing the way, again, we did not operate from a deficit mindset as a family, as a unit. And so there are sort of two categories that came up for me that my other sisters did not cover. The one is sort of the philanthropy that exists and is invisible, right? It is that silent giving. It's the women who are going to put their last in a tray, or they're going to make the phone calls and find the funds to help that family whose house caught on fire and make sure all their needs are met. Johari, I think about our community. I think about the women that we know who go to bat for people and for needs every single day and would never put the title, philanthropist on a resume or across their chest or anything like that. And then I go to the other extreme and I think of, and I'm to be very candid, most of them, outside of a few in my immediate circle, most of them very early in my career were white women who were very bold in their philanthropy, right? They wanted, and they understood that they had a place at the table because of the way they give and because of the way they showed up. Now, some of them subscribe to systems that do not serve me. And I had to be very clear understanding that. But my orientation to understanding the system itself actually happened hand in hand with white women who knew the system, who understood it, right? And who demanded their place at the table. And it allowed me to sort of sneak in through the side door and observe what was happening in that space very, very early in my career. And I'm very thankful for that, actually. And now today, what it looks like is I have major donors who expect their name on things and expect a certain table. And I can't be mad at it. Like if this is the way you're honoring, you choose to honor your philanthropic spirit, I understand.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I love that. I am all over that from that standpoint. I think that is something that we can evolve to. And I think you ladies are sort of doing that. Erika, thank you for bringing that up. I think we have so many unspoken people. We could continue to have conversations about all the women and all the people, but the challenge is that this philanthropy month and what the initiative around Give Black, Give Back, and all the statistics that we put out there, the $11 billion that we give, the money that 2/3 of our households are consistently annually giving to really demand those spaces. And that's what we're talking about with philanthropy specifically, is when we're talking about the intentional giving to make change, and to be able to say, this is something that, we talk about philanthropy as, charity is helping someone in their situation. Philanthropy is helping someone out of their situation. And it requires that boldness to be able to say, that's what you're doing. Like the intentionality is that the next generation will not deal with that. So Erika, thank you so much for sort of taking the next level, because it actually goes right into the next question. And it talks about specifically, I'm gonna let you take this as well, because started off, is that we talk a little bit about how can women how can people empower? I'm going to say empower. I think we talked about something before, but I'm going to say empower. How can we empower more Black women to sort of take on that mantle and to be bold, as you said, and make, as Shirley Chisholm says, if there's not a seat at the table, you bring your own chair, you make your own space. Kia and I brought the old table and our chairs, and we invited the folks. But, how can Black women specifically sort of empower themselves, or how can other people empower Black women to sort of take that role to better advance their community? Erika, I'm going to let you, because you sort of started it, so I'm going to let you go into it.
There is so much. I'm going to try to choose just 1 or 2 points, y'all, because it's both sides, right? Complete transparency. Is that one of the T's? I think it's
we're going to add it. We're going to add it.
It's the 16 now.
Strategic and intentional, but transparent nevertheless. I run an organization whose primary donors have not looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
The lens in which this community has understood and been exposed to challenges and issues around women and girls have typically not been inclusive of those dynamics as reflected in and with the Black and Brown community here local. That was part of the draw to this job for me. What are the ways in which we can become emboldened enough as a community to see ourselves as active participants in the advocacy, right, in the effort? And then what's happening on the system side to make sure that the environment is healthy and affirming for you to be an advocate with us. There's the from both ends, this becomes a really, really interesting challenge. So from a systems perspective, we have to think about what inclusion looks like, right? It's not just diversity by throwing a face on an organization. It's how are we evolving our language and our understanding of these issues. One of the most, I think, a lesson that we cannot ignore, my pregnancy. So I was high risk, right? Considered geriatric pregnancy, moved to a different city. So when we think about healthcare and access, right? Y'all, I'm running through the list of all those boxes that we check when we talk about vulnerable populations. She is sitting in front of you as your executive director right now in relation to maternal health, right? I am just as likely to die in childbirth, no matter how many degrees I have, no matter where they come from, all the things. I'm using this by way of example because I think, Kia, you mentioned this earlier. We buy in to the story, right? We are moved by understanding the ways in which this impact matters to our community. All the love and the healing that needs to happen is because we know that there is such great capacity when we are in community with each other. So one, see very clearly what these needs are and to be able to identify pathways for success for all of us. It is the responsibility of the system that has created the othering to also bridge that gap, right? And it is also then our willingness to be able to extract the narratives enough to bring our sisters in. I'm hosting a VIP event, y'all, in a couple of months. And what they don't know is the invitation will be for everyone in the immediate circle, which are my major donors, my board members, all the folks, right? To invite the woman that's 2 circles removed. Because that's who we need to be in allyship right now. Not just because we need to diversify, which we do, but it's because we need to have better communication and understanding and connectivity with each other to even make this feedback possible, whether it's influencing our policy work, right? It is funding our work. It is also understanding where our funds flow as an organization. We can't do that without relationship. And so I just want to identify sort of what exists on both ends of that and sort of the unique opportunity that calls us all to the table in a different way. I have to have a different conversation with that girlfriend who just needed money for Pampers last week, but really, really understands that there's a need here. Like, what's the conversation then that demystifies money and finances and our ability to contribute, as well as operating from a system that goes, how are we making space for that same woman in our work, not just to be the beneficiary of, right? I'm gonna stop because there's a whole lot there, but I can't wait to hear what else comes, because that's a really great
I mean, as we were all sitting here, you know, and when the video shows, you're going to see a bunch of tops of heads because we were writing. And so much, I hope that those who are at home, and if you're just tuning in, go to blackgivingback.com so you can learn more about what we're doing here in Nashville. And then also hopefully throughout the state, partnering with folks like Erika with the Chattanooga Women's Fund to create this conversation much more broadly. But I mean, you said a whole lot. And what I appreciate is the duality. We are allowed to live in the duality. And that is not often considered in the Black community. Remember, Black folks ain't monolithic. so it's what Erika just kind of ended with, which is the idea that on one end, we have someone in our community who has a very immediate need, knew that need a month ago and needed it again, right? That happens. It's a real thing. And we have to hold space for that. And then also hold space for what's the system that makes this person constantly be on the hamster wheel of need, right? And Erika is and many of you are, but my sister in system change work, and really saying, who do we blame? I'm not blaming the sister who needs the Pampers again. I'm not going to ever do that. We're going to go look at that system and say, why is somehow she not getting access to what it is that she needs? And so I really appreciate you bringing that duality in, because as we're hosted on the Community Foundation's page, most of our audience are going to be people who are systems actors and need to make sure that that you do a different play. Okay, we can write a different script here, and you have the power, access, and control to do that. And so we're really challenging you to do that and hear what Erika is saying, how big of a charge that is. We're saying it, and it may feel like it's in jest, but it really is important to our community to really look at that. Johari or Tyeshia, jump in with that conversation.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll just highlight two things. But one, so I am really big on, and I love working with our young girls. Erika and Kia know this. And so one thing that I will just say is the exposure and awareness for especially for our young Black girls. So I'll tell one quick story. Last year, we were having an event and I was wearing my Black philanthropist sweatshirt at this community event. And I had a young Black girl come up to me and she was like, "Excuse me, miss." And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, what does your shirt mean? Like, what is that?" And this young girl, she had to have been like maybe 15 or 16. And I said, "Oh, Black philanthropist." I said, "My friend created this brand, blah, blah, blah." And I went into the whole thing and she's like, "Well, what is a philanthropist?" She's like, "What does that mean?" And so, I stopped. I took some time to explain to her like what philanthropy is and how she can give. I talked about the 5 T's and gave her this whole spiel. And, she's young. She kind of just looked at me like, "Oh, okay." But I immediately felt in my spirit, like, this is what we're here for. Erika, you talked about, white women who introduced you to that space and kind of, created this opportunity to see that. I feel like the Black women that I know, especially the Black women, especially who are on this call, the Black women who are in these spaces, in these leadership roles, and even just leaders in their community, I feel like we have such an obligation to introduce young Black girls to that and to show them that example, to show them and really explain to them what it means to be an advocate for your community, to what it means to give Black, give back at an early age. And when I say an early age, I mean as young as like when they come out of the womb, to teach them about what that means. Because I had the lived experiences, I had the examples of my grandmother and my mother and those women, but no one ever took the time to explain what that was. So Erika, I love when you talked about, asking your mom that question and she actually gave you, because she easily could have said, "Girl, put my mail down." And go on. And so I love that she took the time to explain that to you, but to also explain you know, the causes and the nonprofits that we choose to support are why. Like, why are you supporting that? Why is that a passion or a cause or an area of concern for you, and how you can get involved? The other thing that I will say is, you know, to that extent, the Women's Fund through the Community Foundation, they also have something called Girls Give, which, you know, Women's Fund is a group of women who are collectively coming together to support nonprofits that directly impact women and girls. They created a few years ago a subset of that called Girls Give, which connects with young girls to put them in the seat to help fund these nonprofits and to give grants to these nonprofits. And so I really love that, because it you know, as women, especially as adults, our understanding of things that young people go through and social issues that are of importance to them are a little bit different. And so it's always nice to hear these young girls talk about the things that matter to them and the areas that directly impact them. I just want more Black and brown girls to be at that table. And so I'm on a mission to like get our Black and brown girls at that table and to get them in those seats to be able to do that. The last thing I will share when it comes to supporting Black women in this work is I will be frank and just say, get out of their way. Get out of their way. Let these Black women lead. Let these Black women, you know, identify the areas that need our support to be able to have these platforms like Lisa and Kia. I love that y'all brought your table, you pulled up your seat, and they're like, yep, do it, educate them, inform the community. One of the reasons why I was so thrilled to take on this new role with the Titans was that, you know, I knew the president and the CEO, he made it very clear. He was like, Johari, I want you in this role, but I'm going to get out of your way. He's like, I want you to do this work. I'm getting out of your way. And personally, I felt like, oh, that's great. I don't have to beg. I don't have to like stand in front of you and plead a case on why we should be doing something. You just simply get it, and you simply understand that you're going to bet on Black women and you are going to let these Black women lead in the way that they should and that they know how to do, because we are powerful. And so I would just say one way to support Black women is to just get out of their way and let them do their work. And then figure out a way, if you are a Black woman, figure out a way how you can do just that, reach back and empower some more young Black women to take on this work and to get more involved in it.
Ooh, Johari, listen, I got to add one other piece to the get out the way, but also protect the outside of the space. Yes. So that true. When Black women come in and something happens because we're saving the day, yep, you don't blame us and throw us under the bus, yep, for taking up the space, right? Because that's yep. The other piece to that is that if you are a co-conspirator who is not in the Black community and you understand to give the space, then also protect the space, yes, as well. Stand on the cursory of that. And then, not to put you on the spot, but you already said it, Lisa and I want to be involved in Girls Give and creating a subset of that for Black girls in particular. So that and Tyeshia has her hand up, and I'm just going to volunteer Erika because I know that she's really passionate about Black girls as well, because we want to make sure at the next Women's Fund event, the huge events that you all have, that we have a table of Black girls who can stand up and say they give, yes, so that giving at that age also looks like us. It doesn't just start at this age. So I'm publicly challenging that. Again, we're here on the Community Foundation's page. We're saying it out loud so we can make sure we hold ourselves accountable to it. Because I know we can do it. We
definitely can do it. So you guys, don't run from my email when I circle back with y'all.
Yeah, no, we're ready.
Erica
We're gonna be
knows
following
this.
you, be tracking you, be like,
Exactly,
Johari.
Johari.
Erica
Yes.
knows this because our circles that we run in, they're very much, when they call us to the carpet, it's like, okay.
There is no running away from it either, girl. It don't matter.
That's okay, I'm ready.
If it's one thing we don't do, we don't run away. We actually show up in
Right,
the
show up,
community
right.
in a different type
Right.
of way. But I
Right.
just like y'all, this is so good. Thank y'all for lifting up Johari and Erika. Erika, yes to the systems change. Johari, yes to pouring into our girls and our future. They got next. And so if we're not sharing the knowledge, all of this juiciness, all the things that we're learning, all of this built, we're the most educated group Black women are. If we are not taking that and passing that forward to the next generation, then what are we doing? So I love that you lifted that up. I just want to say we need rest. How can we be supported is we need rest. And I want to lift that up because it's so important for us to continue to show up in the different ways that we show up. Yeah, I'm a mama of 5. I show up in our community and to where there's times where I'm running off in real life 3-4 hours of sleep just because I feel that draw to community and I want to do so many different things. It's in us to operate that way. And it's in us because historically we had no other choice, right? Black women, we had our ancestors, they had no other choice. They had to cook, they had to clean, they had to go work in the fields. They had to do all the things, and rest wasn't part of that. But we moving a little different now. We're saying we're saying no, I'm gonna still show up for my community in all these different ways, but also taking care of ourselves. And what that looks like is the community being in support of that and our organizations being in support of that. And so I want to lift up, I'm a part of a cohort. It's called the Black Women in Nonprofit Leadership. Shout out to Erika Flood Moultrie. This initiative it came out of an organization called the Dallas Truth and Racial Healing and Transformational. Now, y'all, this actually, it's a Dallas chapter, but they have it nationally. It's a national initiative that was funded by Kellogg Foundation. And shout out to organizations like Kellogg that are pouring into programs like this, that advocate for Black women. They fund Black causes. So that's another conversation. But I want to lift up the importance of this program because it has helped me to learn how to breathe, how to show up and how to be a better servant leader, but also resting and taking the needed steps to pour into myself so that I can continue pouring out in such a way that I don't damage myself in the process of trying to just love on my community and show up as a philanthropist in all the different ways. And so we need more programs like that that where they intentionally make us rest, where I look forward to that third Thursday of every month, y'all, where we go. I be in a community with my sisters. We do healing exercises where it's a safe space. We need more spaces like that where it encourages us to rest and where the community is welcoming and okay with us doing just that. So I would just say, I just want to lift that up for us, a message to us and to the broader community, wherever you can, and opportunities that exist that will allow us to take breaks and what that looks like, support. And then I just want to throw it back on just community. We need the community. We have everything that we need in community. In community is freedom, in community is love, in community is healing, is prosperity, is funness, is joy. And so to just to get back to that healthy ecosystem of the community, us bringing things very local and the community showing up for one another, like where Black women are not having to lead everything and do all the things and advocate. We need our Black men to show up. We need y'all voices up in here. A lot of these movements are led by women, especially Black women. Okay, so what does that look like if more Black men show up to show it, to start different initiatives. And so just thinking about our community in all the different ways and how Black women show up, and then what that looks like for others to join us on those causes. And so I truly believe that through rest, we need more of it, more intentional rest, and opportunities for us to do that. And just the power to the people, power to the community is what we need, and support of folks to just come alongside us so that we can spread out our work and keep doing what we're doing,
That's so good. Erika, go ahead.
Can I present just another side of that coin? Tyeshia, as you were talking, I made a note of this and I forgot. So my mother, y'all, there was always a running joke that my mother was much more willing to throw money at something than like do a thing, right? Mm-hmm. But it was said almost in this demeaning way, right? My mother is not going to bake the cake, but girl, she's going to give you the money to go to the store to get the cake, right? Like that was always. And so it was almost presented though as like this shame, whereas my mom was like, if I have the money, I'm going to throw the money at the thing, because what she was saying was she didn't want to labor. And as I was really thinking about this conversation, it's the audacity sometimes of us being willing to say, instead of it being my physical labor, instead of my body, which is still healing from generations of labor, right? Instead of my body, I'm going to invest my treasure here. Throwing money at that thing was my mother choosing herself and saving herself from labor. And as you were talking through the rest piece, it's the rest with the audacity of choosing a different pathway sometimes for us, right? Just have to, it was resonating.
I love that.
I felt that, Erika.
Because
I felt so much in that at times where I'm like, physically, I cannot do anything, but here's a donation that I can put towards it, how I can support, because it is, when you're in this work, it can be exhausting at times, mentally and physically. And you have to, Tyeshia, I love that you brought up rest, because you have to figure out what rest looks like for you.
We need the village, y'all. We need the village. We need the full village.
Kia was the first person I met that was like, I'm turning off my emails from this time to this time, and I'm unapologetic about it. Like, you will be okay.
I mean,
I've adopted some things, Kia, that you've done. You're very good at creating boundaries and very politically correctly talking about setting those boundaries. I'm here for it. So yes, same, Johari. I've copied some things here for sure.
I mean, we're sitting in a pandemic. We are. Erika just brought in that we are still healing from generations of trauma, right? Communal trauma, DNA trauma. And then we're sitting in the middle of trauma, right? Every day you turn on the TV. I mean, even up until yesterday, you turn on the TV and there is just trauma associated with everything that's around you. And so setting boundaries, I'm huge about that. I don't believe in balance. I believe in boundaries. And it is because that is my great resistance. Rest is very productive. If we're not well, how can I be my best self? How can I operate in my calling? How can I serve other people? It's disobedient for me not to have those boundaries. Like it's ministry for me. And I know that it's like, wait a minute, but that's really what it is. It's ministry for me to have those four corners that stay real tight. And if it's just you all saying like, oh, I adopted a piece of that, like that, then the ministry has spread, right? Just the modeling. That's what this is about. That's what you all been talking about. Modeling behavior. And if I can be the person to model behavior, and you all have modeled things for me too. So it's a reciprocal relationship. Tyeshia has been, preaching community. We've been doing this community thing since the beginning of time. We're communal people. If you go back to your ancestral understanding, then you would, from wherever you're from, whether it's from West Africa, whether it's from the Caribbean, by way of, whether it's South or Central America, by way of wherever you are in the diaspora, community is who you are. Because that's the only way we've ever been able to be successful. Lisa, I know you want to jump into our last question.
I'm just enjoying. I'm enjoying the whole piece. Just in general, I think, we have these conversations in particular around, Black women and what we do. And so first of all, you guys, I have a whole page of notes here, bet on Black women, not operating from a place of deficit. it is our responsibility, actionable tasks of giving, so I have all these, so thank you guys so much for just sort of sharing. And as we get into the last question, I just want to make sure you guys know how much I truly appreciate all the things that you've done. And so how are your organizations supporting women and the Black community specifically? And I kind of want to lean into that from the standpoint of what can we do to support what you're already doing? I guess that's what I really want to say. Like, how can we sort of, how can we as a community, people who are listening now, you can go to blackgivingback.com if you see that this is a place that you want to support here in the Nashville community and find all the funds that are either Black-led funds or nonprofits. But I want to know specifically how you guys are helping the community and how we can continue to support you and can support the work you give and give you what you need to continue to thrive, because it's important for us to give back, right? So this process of Black giving back, it's reciprocal. It's not just us giving, it's us giving back to each other as well. So we want to make sure we have a space for you guys to share that as well. Tyeshia, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you. I shared earlier that I work for at Philanthropy Together, where we're on this mission to diversify and democratize philanthropy. And so we want more people to start giving circles. If you don't know what a giving circle is, check out our website. We have a website, just whatisagivingscircle.com, and check it out. It tells you all the A, B's, and C's behind it. But in essence, it's a group of people that have shared values like us. We have shared values as Black women, all right? We're passionate about supporting Black women, Black girls, causes that impact our communities in a good way. And so it's a group of people that pool their resources together with shared values, y'all, and then we flow it back to the community. So it truly is people power philanthropy at its core, because it's breaking down those power dynamics that traditional philanthropy has, of like who is a philanthropist. And it doesn't always have to be Bill Gates money, y'all. It really doesn't. We as a collective, we have Bill Gates money, actually, when we come together. And so I would encourage everyone, if there is something that you are passionate about, whether it's education, reproductive rights, climate justice, whatever it is, you have the power to pull some resources together and to flow some funding to support organizations that are doing the work for what you're passionate about, especially grassroots organizations. And I want to lift that up, because Giving Circles, that's traditionally what we support, is grassroots BIPOC-led organizations, so that we can bridge this gap, the inequities, the funding inequities that we see between white-led organizations and BIPOC-led organizations. So start a Giving Circle. And if you don't want to start a Giving Circle, then join one. We have a whole directory on our website at philanthropytogether.org where you can browse. So if you in North Carolina, Tennessee, New York, and you want to just plug in to get to know a Giving Circle like mine, Heritage, you can find it on the Giving Circle. It's a global Giving Circle directory. So it's not even Giving Circles here, it's global. So all across the diaspora, we can find Giving Circles that are doing very good work. And I also, I would just say, and that's huge, y'all, because the collective giving movement, Giving Circles, is 70% led by women. And so we're just going to stay on the gas with that. I want us to continue to trailblaze in that way. Our goal is to have 5,000 Giving Circles by 2025, and I think we can do it, so that we really can flow some funds into these organizations. And also not just the money, again going back to those 5 T's in community and within a Giving Circle. That's your village, those are your people. So now your connections are gonna grow, your village is gonna grow, right? Your mind is gonna grow, because you're gonna learn about some things that just by being in the collective, just being in the space where y'all are learning more and getting deep about the issues and learning, having a good relationship with the nonprofits that you're funding. So it's not just checkbook philanthropy where you're just giving them their money and don't have no ties to them. That's crowdfunding and all that stuff. But it's really like, how else can you show up? Maybe they need a volunteer. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to go serve on their board. They need our support. And so I just want to lift up the power of giving circles and that piece of like the learning is there, the village is there, the impact is there, and it all is localized, literally localized. And so I would just lift that up. And then also just plugging in my giving circle, Heritage Giving Fund. You know, we're making waves down here in Dallas, y'all, which is a big deal. You know, it's a lot of people are coming to Texas, Dallas and Houston. We see everybody coming to Texas. And so, but it's great because we're diversifying. The population shift is happening in Texas, which is great. And that's exactly what we want. And so I would just encourage y'all to follow us on, you know, check us out on all social platforms. You can find all of the organizations that I'm involved with just by just searching for me. But with Heritage Giving Fund, we have a website just so you can learn more about how we are creating change here in North Texas to model it maybe for your community. But not saying we're doing everything perfect, but I truly do believe we're doing it in a very unique way because we're right at the intersection of community building, yes, and funding, but then also advocacy, y'all. So from organizing voter registration events and like, we're just thinking big in other ways and how we can not just address the funding piece, but policy and getting women into leadership, you know, to all of that good stuff. So I can keep going on and on, but philanthropytogether.org, Heritage Giving Fund, check us out and connect with me because I love meeting new friends and I really do. And so just, yeah, all of that. Sorry, I'm talking, I get so excited talking about this work and what we're doing. So yes.
Thank you, Tyeshia.
Johari, you want to jump in and let us know what you're doing, how we can help, everything.
Yeah. So I work for an NFL team, which at its core is male dominated. It's a male dominated industry. However, I think now there is an opportunity and I think a true intentionality and emphasis on how the NFL can expand that and make it more inclusive to women and especially our young Black women and Black and brown girls. So the first thing that I will bring up is the Titans started the girls flag football here in Tennessee and launched it last year in Williamson County and as a way to introduce girls to football. And one of the great achievements out of that is that we had our first young girl receive a full ride scholarship to Campbellville University on a girls flag football scholarship, which is so amazing and such a trailblazing moment for just women and girls in general in the football space. And so the Titans, we are expanding that program to Nashville, to Davidson County, and we'll start a program here, a league with Metro Schools, I think in the fall. So that's one way that we are including girls, women and girls. And another opportunity that we've talked about and that we are doing is in Nashville, Tennessee, Jefferson Street is an iconic historic street here in Nashville there's so much history to it, but there's lots of Black owned businesses that have been there for years. There are Black owned businesses that are new to Jefferson Street. Every year, NFL teams have the opportunity to do a schedule release, and most teams use this as an opportunity to do a play on a theme. So it may be a Game of Thrones schedule release, or it may be something entertaining. The Titans wanted to do something different and really wanted to shine a light on minority and women small-owned businesses here in Nashville. And so their schedule release, they created a full video and it was all about Jefferson Street. And they use that as an opportunity to not only highlight the Titans game schedule, but it is an opportunity to spotlight those businesses. And those businesses are also highlighted at each Titans home game, or will be highlighted at each Titans home game and incorporated in all of marketing and initiatives that the Titans are doing throughout the season. And so that's something that they want to carry on. This year, it's focused on Jefferson Street, but they want to expand that across the region to highlight small and minority-owned businesses in Chattanooga, Memphis, Knoxville over the next few years. I mentioned earlier that, you know, it's a male-dominated industry, and so really right now taking an approach through the foundation to really think about ways that we can create job opportunities, that we can create exposure, so opportunities through internships and fellowships, partnering with our HBCUs to really create this pipeline for women and girls to be able to get a footing into the NFL industry, but also back to Kia's point, finding ways to protect women as they come into this industry, in this workplace. And so the Titans are really trying to focus our efforts through the foundation to create generational impact. So, you know, most times when you think about a foundation, and especially from an NFL lens, oftentimes you think about how, you know, you can give out these one-off donations to support, you know, the work that's happening, which is great, but we really want to take a different approach and figure out how we can have generational impact, but also how we can dismantle systems that are directly impacting communities. And so how can we do that through our community benefit programs here at the Titans Foundation to directly serve Nashville and the greater Middle Tennessee region? So those are just a couple of things that we're doing in my professional world. In my personal world, I would encourage listeners and viewers to really take a moment to visit Corner to Corner's website and to learn more about what they're doing, supporting minority and small business owners here in Nashville, Tennessee, and how you can help in that capacity and support that cause. And then also, I would be remiss if I didn't give another plug to the Women's Fund with the Community Foundation, but to take a moment and to learn more about the Women's Fund and how you can donate to both of those organizations, Corner to Corner and the Women's Fund.
That's good. Erika, you got last.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I thought about this sort of in three categories. The Women's Fund of Greater Chattanooga, you know, I think our responsibility in relation to especially Black women right now is to consider, how do we filter the water, right? So oftentimes we talk about culture, we talk about it as water. You swimming in the water, you have no idea what's happening. We're swimming in water that has not been inclusive, right? We're swimming in water that's not been reflective of the population that we serve, that we work alongside of. We're swimming in water that has historically been funded by populations that don't necessarily have the most intimate relationship with the impacts that we have, right, in community. And so my responsibility with the Women's Fund right now is to think about the ways that we can shift that water. What's the filter? How do we slowly but surely invite the right conversations? Do we build the right culture? Do we have a different understanding that allows us to look at our systems level impact and our change through a lens that is much more reflective of the communities that we work with and for? And so because of that, right, we are owning the earnest on our end. I am not putting the responsibility on women of color to figure out where they fit in for us. We have to shift from the inside out. And I do think that is a responsibility of those who are in philanthropic spaces to consider who's at the table, why are they at the table, who's missing from the table. And we're doing that work from the inside out, both from an operations perspective, a values perspective, and absolutely a programmatic perspective. With the Women of Color Collaborative, we are being responsive to the needs as they are evolving, right? Kia just walked us through all the trauma, y'all. And what I love so dearly about this organization that has not only been run by Black women, but has been funded, right, primarily by Black women to serve Black women, is that we have also been really honest with ourselves about where we are as the doers of this work. We can only create from a place of overflow from ourselves. So if we are at a deficit, then we can't show up for community, y'all, in the ways that we want to. And we've been very transparent about that journey, because to my very first point, I do think it is the way we dismantle systems. We have to operate from a place of truth for those of us who are doing the work, as well as, on the receiving or benefiting in that space as well. So our responsibility to Black women and with Black women from the Women of Color collaborative perspective is to continue to create those responsive spaces. We're building out an HBCU specific cohort because, Tyeshia, to your point, you didn't say it explicitly, but what I heard, right, from that funding and what you sort of walked us through was there is a need that other Black individuals in that learning space articulated that they needed different, right? And so there was this opportunity to create a space that was safe. That is what we do, right? We are making sure that we all have to navigate in all these other worlds, but how can WAC continue to hold space to make sure that we are good and that we are healthy and that we are whole through restorative, whether it's retreat and rest, and building those next generations. So working with our HBCU cohorts to make sure that as you are entering into your career field in that world, that you are equipped with some maybe different tools than we had to learn, over time, to not only survive, but to thrive. We are intentionally creating a trauma and healing sort of lens to our understanding of our own personal ecology. That's the framework that we use to explore a lot of these issues. And then Erika as a person, my responsibility will continue to be to model all of those T's and the ways in which those T's are accessible for us, right? And continue to invite these type of generative conversations so that we can always evaluate and understand our relationship to all of those T's and to our broader community. That's all I got.
This has been amazing conversation. I know, Kia, you have some words to share, and before we close out, we can talk more, but we can't because we know you ladies are busy. We need to get rest. To Tyeshia's point, rest. Right? We gotta do that. So.
Oh my goodness, this has been such a transformative conversation. I hope, I think this is what obedience looks like, is just when you follow your spiritual inclination to do something, and putting this together is my wildest dream. Wouldn't have even known the conversation would evolve this way, but I'm so grateful that it did, because this is a manifestation of who we are as a community of people. And so I hope that the viewers, the listeners, I hope that one, you share this video abroad with many other people so that they can see the reflection of what community looks like. Two, go to the respective websites. On the back end, there's wonderful people who are putting in links. So everything that our guests just shared, you can find them on the Community Foundation's Facebook page. You can find them in the links. So go there and go to their websites, go to their donate buttons, contribute where you can, hold us accountable. The reason why we do this platform is so that we can hold accountable to what we say. Lisa and I, when we came up with the idea of taking up this space, it was so that we could ensure that we memorialize the work, that we have oral history, but then also documented, memorialized history. And that's what this is. So hold us accountable. Thank you so much to our guests for being here, Johari, Tyeshia, Erika. Thank you always to my co-conspirator in this work, Lisa. Thank you in the background to Audra Cox, our wonderful liaison at the Community Foundation, as well as all the staff at Community Foundation that really does allow us to take up and hold and contribute to the space that you all have created over the last 30 plus years. We're grateful. Go to the website, blackgivingback.com, and stay tuned. Next week, we will have a special announcement to close out Black Philanthropy Month, International Black Philanthropy Month. Thank you all for being here. Have a great rest of your week.